I knew trouble was coming the moment I saw her. Not because of the dust storm swirling in the distance or the way the coyotes howled into the night. No, it was the blood. I should have known better. In this land, blood never tells a lie. I had been tending to the ranch, just finishing up with the last of the cattle when I first heard it, the soft sound of hooves thudding against the dry earth. I didn't think much of it at first. The desert had a way of playing tricks on a man's ears. But when the sound came closer, steady and sure, I figured I was about to have company. What I didn't expect was her. A woman. She was nothing like the other drifters who passed through, dusty, broken, ready to move on as soon as the sun rose. No, she was different. Her face was pale, her dark eyes wide with fear, her lips cracked and dry. She was riding hard, her horse galloping with a desperate pace, but she wasn't looking ahead. No, she was looking over her shoulder every few seconds, as if someone was chasing her. When she spotted me, her hands jerked the reins, pulling the horse to a screeching halt. I watched her, every inch of her tense like a bowstring ready to snap. There was something wild in her, something that said she wasn't running from just the law or even a bad decision. She was running from her past. She didn't speak at first. Just looked at me, her breath coming in short gasps. I didn't move, didn't say a word, just waited. I'd spent too many years alone to be fooled by a damsel in distress. I had learned that the hard way. But then she opened her mouth. For the first time in years, I felt something stir inside me. "Please," she whispered, voice barely more than a broken breath. "Please help me. They're coming." Her words hung in the air, and I felt the weight of them settle deep in my chest. I should have turned away. I should have kept walking. My own life had been a series of lies and betrayals, and I swore I was done with getting involved. But then she looked at me, and those dark eyes, filled with something so raw, so desperate, made me forget every damn vow I'd ever made to myself. Before I could answer, the sound of hooves filled the air again, much closer now. The woman tensed, clutching the reins so tight her knuckles went white. "They're coming," she said again, this time with more conviction. I didn't hesitate. "Get off the horse," I commanded, my voice rough with years of silence. She didn't argue. She slid off the saddle as quickly as she'd climbed on. I grabbed the reins and guided her horse away, my mind already calculating the safest way to get her inside the cabin without being seen. The thundering hooves drew nearer, and in the split second before they arrived, I knew I had no choice. I had to protect her, whether I wanted to or not. Her hand shot out, grabbing my arm. "You don't know who they are," she warned, her grip tight. I turned to face her, seeing the raw fear etched across her face. "I don't need to," I said, my voice cold as the desert night. "I'm just a rancher, and this is my land." She hesitated, then nodded, but her eyes flickered toward the ridge. "They won't stop. They'll hunt me down." And then I saw them riders, emerging from the darkness, their figures stark against the red glow of the setting sun. There were 4 of them, their horses kicking up dust like storm clouds. The leader, a tall man with a scar across his cheek, waved his hand, signaling to the others to spread out. I reached for my rifle, my fingers steady despite the rush of adrenaline flooding my veins. "They're not just here for you," I said, more to myself than to her. "They want something you're carrying, don't they?" She looked at me, eyes wide. She didn't answer, but I could see it in the way she stood, tense, ready to fight. She was carrying something. Something important. And now I was tangled in whatever it was. Whatever had brought her to my doorstep, the first gunshot rang out. Sharp crack that split the silence like a lightning strike. The woman ducked instinctively, pulling me down with her, her body pressed against mine. And for a moment, I felt her warm thrill. Alive like something I hadn't felt in years. I could feel the weight of her fear, her uncertainty, and her desire to survive. The man who had fired the shot was circling around, trying to get a better angle. I aimed my rifle, my finger tightening on the trigger. "Get inside," I said. She didn't argue this time, bolting toward the cabin, moving with a speed that betrayed her exhaustion. I covered her as she ran, my eyes scanning the horizon, waiting for the next move. Inside, the door slammed shut behind us, and for a moment, both just stood there, breathing hard. The cabin, small and worn from years of use, was a poor defense against the coming storm. But it was all I had to offer. I turned to face her, my hands shaking slightly. "You gonna tell me what's going on now?" She nodded, her eyes still wide with fear. "I'm Lila," she said, her voice barely more than a whisper. "And I'm not just running from those men. I'm running from my past." Her eyes flickered to the window, her body tense, as though the ghosts of her past were right outside. I said nothing for a moment. My heart was pounding, and my mind was racing. I had known loss. I had known pain. But there was something in her, something that called to me in a way I hadn't expected. "You've got nowhere to go," I said quietly, turning back to the door. The wind howled outside, and I knew the men would be coming soon. But even with danger at our doorstep, I couldn't shake the feeling that something much deeper was stirring between us. Lila, I didn't know her story, didn't know her secrets, but I was about to find out. And in the desert, where no one's past is ever truly buried, secrets have a way of catching up with you. I didn't know it yet, but in that moment, everything I thought I knew about survival, about love, was about to change. The sun had barely set when the first gunshot echoed through the canyon. My heart was already racing, the adrenaline from earlier still pumping in my veins. But it wasn't just the danger that held my attention. It was her Lila, standing beside me, eyes wide with fear, her fingers gripping the bow with a steady hand. I had known violence, known how to shoot first and ask questions later, but I'd never known someone who looked at me the way she did, like I was her only hope, her only chance at survival. The night had come fast, dark, and cold, bringing with it the weight of the secrets she carried. Her father's death, the artifact, the map, the way her eyes shifted when I asked about it. She wasn't telling me everything, and that made me nervous. Trust, once broken, never comes back easily. I didn't have time to dwell on that. The men were here, Silas Kane's men, hunting her, and by extension me. The sounds of hooves grew louder, closer. A deafening reminder that no one could run forever. I moved quickly, motioning for Lila to get inside the cabin. She hesitated, her eyes lingering on me for a moment before she darted inside. I stayed behind, listening, waiting, my hand never straying far from my rifle. My breath came in sharp bursts, the air thick with tension. I knew the stakes were higher than just my life now. Her past had caught up with her, and I was tangled in it. I looked out into the darkness. The silhouettes of the riders circling. Kane had sent his best. I could feel them, feel their eyes on me. My heart pounded in my chest, and for the first time in a long while, it wasn't just the memories that haunted me. It was the uncertainty of what was to come. Then it came another shot, this one closer. I ducked instinctively, feeling the wind from the bullet as it whizzed past. "Damn it," I muttered under my breath, my fingers tightening around the rifle. Lila was inside, but that didn't mean she was safe. I couldn't let them take her. I couldn't let anyone take her. The first man appeared from the shadows, his face hidden beneath the brim of his hat. His hand hovered near his gun, ready to draw. I didn't wait. The rifle bucked in my hands, and the man fell without a sound. His body hit the ground with a thud, but I didn't look back. There were more coming. "Jack." Lila's voice came from the cabin, strained but clear. She knew what was happening. She knew the danger. But I couldn't afford to be distracted. Not now. The second rider appeared, faster than the first, coming at me from the left. I didn't hesitate. The bullet struck him in the chest, sending him tumbling from his horse. The two down. But Kane's men were like a pack of wolves. There was no end to them. A voice yelled from behind me. "You can't run from us, Walker." Kane's voice. My jaw clenched, my body stiffening at the sound of it. I'd known this day would come, the day I'd face him again. The man I left for dead in Abilene. The man who would never forgive me for it. I turned to see him, standing tall, with a smirk stretched across his scarred face. The man was nothing but trouble, and I'd been trying to outrun him for years. "You still alive, Hall?" Kane sneered. "Figured the desert would have swallowed you up by now." I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The years had taken their toll on both of us, but I wasn't the same man who had left him behind all those years ago. And Cain knew that. He could see it in my eyes, the resolve. The hunger for a final reckoning. You think you're safe here with her? Cain's voice grew cold. She's the reason you're all gonna die. I felt Leela's presence behind me, but I didn't look back. Not yet. I couldn't afford to lose focus. I had to end this. The wind picked up, swirling the dust into the air, and in that moment, everything felt like it was closing in. The gunshots, the shouts, the sound of hooves, it all blended into one. But the most deafening sound of all was the silence that followed Cain's threat. I raised my rifle again, eyes fixed on Cain. This was it. The moment I had feared in, the moment I had been waiting for. But before I could fire, Leela's voice called out, trembling but strong, "Jack, wait." I turned to her, confusion and fear mixing in my gut. She was standing at the door of the cabin, her hand on the frame, her breath coming in ragged gasps. "Don't do this," she said, her eyes wide with desperation. "I'll go with him. It's the only way to end this." I froze. What? I could barely process what she was saying. "You're willing to give yourself to him?" Lila's voice faltered, but there was a determination behind her words. "I'm not giving myself to him," she whispered, almost too quietly for me to hear. "I'm giving him what he wants, what he's always wanted, the map, the key to the artifact." My heart skipped a beat. The map, of course. It wasn't just a map. It was the key to something much bigger, something that could change everything. I took a step toward her, my mind reeling. "You can't just—" "I have to," she said, cutting me off. "If I don't, everyone I care about will die. Jack, I've been running for so long. You don't know what it's like to carry something like this. The weight of it? It's too much for anyone." I swallowed hard, my throat dry. "But I'm not letting you go. Not to him." Leela's eyes met mine, her gaze steady but filled with pain. "You don't have a choice, Jack," she said softly, her words like a knife in my chest. "You can either save me, or you can save everyone else." I wanted to scream. I wanted to shout at her, tell her she was wrong, but the truth of her words hit me like a freight train. Her pain, her sacrifice, it was all too much. And yet here I was, standing in front of her, as the one man who could protect her. And yet I couldn't even protect myself. Cain's voice rang out again, a mocking laugh. "She's right, you know? You can't save her, Hall. She's mine." Lila's gaze flickered to the door, her hand shaking as she slowly reached for the map hidden in her coat. I watched her, helpless, as she made the choice to hand it over. "Jack," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "This is the only way." And in that moment, I realized she wasn't just handing over a map. She was handing over her future. And mine. Our futures. Our lives. The door creaked open and Lila stepped forward, her hand extended to Cain, and for the briefest moment, I thought I saw the faintest trace of a tear in her eye, but it was gone before I could be sure. "Take it," she said, her voice steady but broken. And just like that, everything changed.